Good afternoon to all. On behalf of the Department of Commerce and Management, Bhakta Kavi Narsinh Mehta University, Junagadh, and you all are heartily welcome to this university. And from now onwards, you will be a part of this family, and you all have to raise the name of this university like others do. The Department of Commerce and Management has organized Adept Talk series. Today, I warmly welcome today's eminent expert, Professor Dr. Kishor Barad, sir. So, sir, today I warmly welcome Honorable and enthusiastic Vice-Chancellor, Professor Dr. Chetan Trivedi, sirs. I also welcome of the EC members, principals, professors, research scholars, and my faculty members. I also welcome who are watching through the YouTube, Facebook Live. I also warmly welcome today's series Adept Talk eminent experts, Professor Dr. Kishor Barad, sir. Adept Talk is designed to improve the knowledge in the field of the commerce and management. 21st century is the century of the knowledge, and the aim of the department is to give quality education to our valuable assets to our students. Kindly join with us. It is a journey of the knowledge. Let's share the knowledge and build new India also. About the Dr. Kishor Barad, sir. Dr. Kishor Barad is working with Shanti Business School, Ahmedabad, a leading business school in the country since last 11 years as founding professor and area chair marketing. He has more than 25 years of the academic and industry experience. His areas of teaching, research, training, and consulting are business strategy and marketing. He has successfully guided 9 PhD students in the subject of the management and has published more than 35 research papers in the national and international journal of the reputation. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Chetan Trivedi, sir, he is not present, so his busy schedules, but has inspired us to start this series under his efficient guidance. I feel happy to inform you that BKNMU University may be the first university who started series for the commerce, management, finance, banking, marketing, accounting, and general management topics. Now I welcome today's eminent experts, Professor Dr. Kishor Barad, deliver his expert speech, topic of the opportunities and challenges in the rural market of India in the 21st century. So please, sir, Dr. Barad, sir, please.
Yeah. Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So a very good evening to Honorable Professor Dr. Chetan Trivedi Saab, the Vice-Chancellor of BKNMU Junagadh, Dr. Bhavsinh Dodia, Head of Department, faculty members, students, and other viewers of this talk. So at the outset, I'm extremely thankful for inviting me to express my views and ideas on a very important topic, basically the rural marketing, which is very close to my heart. So with this opening note, let me share my presentation. So the talk for the day is going to be opportunities and challenges in rural markets of India in the 21st century. I purposefully, when I was asked to select a topic and make a presentation on it, I purposefully selected these rural markets. The reason being, we all know that India, with a population of 134 crore, 69%. Earlier, the number of people living in rural areas has fallen little lesser by a percentage or two because of the migration from rural areas to urban areas in search of jobs and opportunities. However, when we are talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, when we are talking about becoming one of the leading forces in the global economic landscape, it would be not advisable to ignore the mass population that lives in our hinterlands. This is not the population only, this is a huge market. Basically, when we started our liberalization policies in 1991, and the continuous sequence of the foreign direct investments that are coming into India attracts the investor. One of the single most important attraction that every company is looking forward is the huge market. And this huge market of 134 crore Indian is what attracts the businessmen and the companies. However, before talking and unveiling the other important issues and points of as far as the rural markets are concerned, let us see what is the demographic of this country, where do people live, and based on this facts and figures and data, we will try to talk about what rural markets are and why are they important, what are the various misconceptions. Now, if you broadly see, I hope my presentation is visible, Dr. Dodia. So, if you look at this pyramid, the data is little older, but as of now, 134 crore Indians. They live into the four zones or the four pies of this pyramid. So 11% of the total population lives in 27 cities, and these 27 cities are large cities with a population of more than 5 million or even 10 million people. So your Delhi, Mumbai, Calcutta, Bangalore, Jaipur, Patna, Ahmedabad, etc. These are the large cities. Remaining, we have 396 towns wherein 8% of the population of India lives. And further you go, so another 9% of the Indian population lives in 4,738 semi-urban areas. Now these semi-urban areas are nothing but the taluka places or tehsils and small towns. Like for example in Gujarat, even the Junagadh may be treated as although it is a district place, but it is no bigger than a town, right? Similarly, you have taluka places, your small towns and your small cities. So 9% of the population lives here. Remaining 72%, the figure has slightly come down. As of now, 2021, 69% population of India lives in 6,35,000 villages spread in length and breadth of the Mother India, right? So now why these rural markets, why companies are attracted to this? To a larger extent, when the Indian economy was being liberalized, majority of the companies into FMCG, into consumer durables, automobiles, telecommunication, etc., private sector banking, etc., they all were focusing their marketing and sales efforts on these large cities and smaller towns because of the huge market potential which was already prevailing. Over a span of these 30 years of Indian liberalization of the economy, these large cities and towns are to a certain extent getting saturated in terms of market and business opportunities. So majority of the companies, may it be Indian MNCs, may it be foreign global MNCs, now where do they sell the next? So there was a huge potential which was untapped. And this huge potential lies in the small towns or semi-urban areas and these villages, approximate 6,35,000 villages, right? So whether you talk about Hindustan Unilever, whether you talk about Maruti Suzuki, whether you talk about Hero Honda, whether you talk about Axis Bank, or whether you talk about any XYZ FMCG brand, or you talk about a smartphone company or a mobile service provider company, or even for your information, you talk about e-commerce. All of these companies are attracted towards this huge potential in terms of purchase and consumption that lies in our small towns and villages, right? This is the reason, this is the background why today the rural markets have been talked not only by Indian universities and Indian companies, right from Wharton to Stanford to Michigan to Oxford. All the foreign universities have been focusing and putting their eyes, may it be AC Nelson, may it be McKinsey, all these leading consulting firms or the renowned business universities and schools or renowned business and brands, all of them are trying to tap this opportunity that is available into our small towns and villages. The next slide talks about, now let's talk about the Indian income pyramid, because this is going to be, these are the fundamental pillars on which we're going to talk about the huge potential, huge opportunities that lies in our rural markets, right? So if you see, say for example, in tier 1 cities, on an average, the income is greater than $20,000 US dollars, right, per annum. Similarly, if you go there, so this 4 segments of the pyramid, tier 1 cities, that includes your this huge 27 cities and towns. Similarly, this tier 2 cities, right, wherein an average annual income would range between 1,500 to 20,000 US dollars. You come to tier 4 cities, I'm fairly $1,500 or a little more, and tier 5 cities or smaller towns further, earning something less than $1,500 per year. So if you see the population, the consumers, because at the end of the day, if a company has to sell something, the first and the foremost thing that is required is the buyer, the consumer. So where are these buyers? These buyers are now living in small towns and villages of India. Do they have purchasing power? Yes. The scene, the per capita income or the net purchasing power of these rural consumers have changed over a period of time. Within last 20 to 30 years, these rural consumers are now very much ambitious, and they are aspiring to consume almost all the products and services that are available in urban area, right? So the next slide, however, I just give you a background about how vast are the consumer base and how huge is the purchasing power. In one of my slides, we would definitely share the statistics as to what is the value of the markets, different markets in rural areas and small towns and small cities of India. However, before I further talk anything, let me tell you what is this rural marketing or what is this rural markets. Basically, this rural market is nothing but a segment. Basically, the marketers have bifurcated the Indian markets into urban markets and into rural markets. The urban markets, as already said, are on the verge of, have already been saturated in several product categories and services, or are on the verge of saturation. So, the next market they're looking forward is towards the small towns and the villages of our country. But one of the most misconception about everybody, whenever we use the word rural India or when we use the word rural market, a picture that is depicted comes into the mind of the people, that rural India means there are poor people living there. The rural consumers have no lifestyle. They are stinking, they are dirty, there are herds, there is no power connectivity, there are no roads, all weather roads. They lack basic amenities as well, and this is a normal perception that any individual, and therefore there's always a stigma about the rural areas of India. But my dear friends, students, and my dear colleagues, in fact, when we are talking about the India's double-digit growth in terms of GDP, let us be very clear that if we have to grow our GDP in double digit, we cannot overlook or we can no more afford to ignore our rural India, our rural consumers or rural India, to be very precise. The reason, because when we talk, the majority of the companies have already built up their huge plant capacities in the industrial estates of various parts of India. Now, if the production capacity, if the company has to operate at their full scales of production capacities, right? If they have to operate, they need the market to sell it, because beyond a limit, a company cannot keep on piling up their stocks and inventories. The demand that is coming from urban consumers is almost it is in a reverse trend. It's almost negative, or it's in a reverse trend. It's not showing the next level of growth. So if these companies have to continue operating at full capacities, the consumers living in rural India will have to be competent to buy it. So if they buy it, the operation, the productions will continue, the employment will continue, and the government will keep on receiving their taxes. And as you know, the national income with three sides about income, expenditure, and consumption. So this picture is trying to show that the rural India has undergone a tremendous transformation, particularly post-liberalization since 1991, with lot of social initiatives and with lot of economic policies and initiatives of central and state government. The next slide is going to give some vital statistics as to how the rural India, landscape of rural India is changing over a period of time. So, for example, if you see now, out of this 136 crore Indian population, 83 crore Indians or 69% lives in rural areas, and this 83 crore people are going to be the next bunch of consumers. The cars, the computers, the mobiles, the washing machines, the water purification systems, and your motorcycles, etc., etc., everything is going to be sold there, right? And these people, this 83 crore people, will consume all these things, and they will create the demand, because we have been talking about the population dividend, and this 83 crore is going to generate a lot of opportunities for the marketers and for the companies to sell their products. Another the landscape, see, prior to independence, the literacy rate was almost into single digit. Today, if you see the statistics of literacy in rural area, it has been almost 67 to 68%. What does this mean? As a marketer, as a company, what does this figure tell me? Now, as we all know, that with increase in education, the aspiration and ambition, the quality, the life to live a better life also increases, and therefore all these people, we have seen that there are a lot of rural universities, schools, colleges, everything has been coming up in almost all the parts of India. I'm not only talking about the developed states like Gujarat or South India or northern Indian states like Punjab, Haryana, etc., Delhi, NCR. I'm talking about every year I travel several parts of India. I fly thousands of kilometers into the areas of Jharkhand, Bihar, Odisha, West Bengal, UP, etc., etc. And I myself is witnessing the kind of the growth and development that is taking place across various social systems and the society and the overall infrastructure of the rural areas, right? And because of this, all of us, all the rural marketers, all the companies are becoming very much optimistic. Now, the another indicator that is showing a very positive sign is your rural per capita income, right? Say, for example, if you talk about the per capita income in 2000-2001, it was just 10,000 rupees per. It's almost 41,000 rupees in the year 11-12, right? Now, with an increase in income, because once the basic necessities of say food or clothing or shelter would be fulfilled, the additional income would create a demand for some high-end products and services, right? And therefore this is again a very very important indicator that attracts majority of the industries, majority of the brand managers, and majority of the sales and marketing professional. It was said once upon a time that rural India has no power, rural India has no all-weather roads, there are no fuel stations, there is no internet connectivity, there are no televisions, etc., etc. This is what I was trying to say this through this picture of rural India. This is no more a rural India. Now, if you just talk about road connectivity, Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, probably you would have heard of. Today, I'm not talking about Gujarat. In Gujarat, under the scheme of Gokul Yugam, almost all the villages of Gujarat have all-weather road connectivity, right? Not only that, the internal roads in the villages also were of RCC. I'm talking about other parts of the India, may it be Bihar, may it be Jharkhand. Once upon a time, all these roads, all these states, poor Bimaru states that we very commonly call them, right? There were no roads, and we are aware about one incident. You would have seen that movie wherein Mr. Manji had to dig a road, and had to dig a mountain for several years to just make a road. That was a scene of rural India some decades back. But if you see this real India's development 2005 onwards, Government of India along with the state governments today, more than 35,000, more than 3 million kilometers, 3.5 million kilometers of road connectivity, all weather friendly roads. What does this mean? This means to all the marketers and the companies, companies will now, as there is a connectivity, the vehicles would get into the demand for automobiles. In fact, majority of the two-wheelers, may you talk about Hero Motorscope, or you talk about Honda, or you talk about TVS, or you talk even cars, for example, 39% of the total sales of Maruti Suzuki, out of the total sales of Maruti Suzuki, 39% of the sales of the cars are demanded by the rural consumers, right? Another important indicator, say after several decades of Indians' independence, again some of the backward states, people did not have access to a bank or a bank account. And we are very much familiar. One of the scheme of Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. Now, with this scheme, once upon a time, the villagers or the people living in these rural areas wanted to open a bank account, but because of the deficiency of the documents demanded, these people did not have majority of the documents as KYC. But this scheme itself, this Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, now this is again a very, very phenomenal development in the landmark of independent India. In fact, at many a times, I feel that the rural areas of India truly received their independence post 2010-2015. For all this, for the past six and a half decades of Indian independence, this population, the people living into the small towns and villages, were deprived of almost all the basic services and the comforts of life. Similarly, one more important indicator that I would like to share is the self-help groups. You know that developing a country and in general, and developing the rural areas of India in specific, it is not only the duty, or it is not the only responsibility of the central government, of state government. And we know that there are various models of central and state governments which have been initiated so that hand-holding of the poor people, landless laborers, assetless laborers, illiterate women and men in the villages, they can be trained and they have some self-employment or sustainable livelihood. In line with this, as of now, if you see, there are 7 lakhs and 17,000 self-help groups, right? And these groups, this SHG groups, are creating wonderful opportunities for deprived people, and they are generating sustainable livelihood, right, for the deprived people. And I would, at this point of time, I am not sure whether majority of you are aware or not, but Hindustan Unilever, it's a household name. This Hindustan Unilever, under its initiative of Project Shakti, they use this self-help group of women in South India, and they created a very systematic and a very dynamic distribution channel to sell majority of their soaps and detergents and other daily essential items through Shaktiman dealers. And these are the ladies. And if you, the movie on Project Shakti is definitely available on YouTube. If somebody is interested, they can have a look at this movie called Project Shakti, and the initiative of Hindustan Unilever. It was not a social initiative, but it was truly a marketing strategy of the company. How do we access this hinterlands of India? How do we make our distribution efficient? How do we make our sales, selling of products profitable? Because one of the biggest challenge that I'm going to talk on later is the scattered population in the rural areas. Although number of villages are 6.35 lakh, but if you see the average population of the 6 lakhs 35,000 is 1,000 to 1,200 people per village. Now this becomes little inefficient in terms of economy of scale, because we all know as students of management and commerce that there is a distribution cost involved, and if the delivery van that goes to a village to deliver the ordered items, and if the total bill value is going to be 500 or 700, probably the cost of the diesel and the salary of the delivery man also may not be in a position to be recovered. So this was a little discouraging, and therefore Hindustan Unilever came out with this very innovative strategy and a model of Shakti dealers, right? And these deprived women were figured out, who had some, wise women who were in need of sustainable livelihood. They were identified, they were trained, and they were made the dealers. And for every item they sold of Hindustan Unilever, they were given some commission on this. And on an average, a woman who was once upon a time jobless, helpless, and had no sustainable livelihood, today they are earning 3,000, 5,000 or even more amount of commission per month. And this has been this kind of initiative. Another initiative, let me talk to you, which has been very widely talked and discussed, is about the ITC e-Chopals. Right, we are aware about this Indian Tobacco Company. Now, it is no more only confined to manufacturing and marketing cigarettes, but it is becoming a diversified company, right, from ready to eat food to FMCG, ready to wear garments, etc., etc. And this e-Chopal was a kind of a model they experimented in certain parts of Madhya Pradesh, wherein now ITC being also into the business of FMCG, they wanted good quality of, say, soya bean and wheat and etc., such kind of products. So instead of, if the company goes to the marketing yard to buy this kind of raw materials, probably they were becoming little expensive because of the middleman's commission, etc., etc. And at times they were not very much sure about the quality, or there were some issues related to the weight of the raw materials they were procuring procuring. The markets and the rates of the raw materials also were quite volatile, etc., etc. So what ITC did, they started an experimental model in some selected regions of Madhya Pradesh, and they created some internet enabled kiosk, right? And the supervisors and the staff of this e-chopals went home to home in various villages of Madhya Pradesh, and they informed about the initiative of this ITC. Right, we would buy the material from your farms directly, right? We will give you whatever is the prevailing latest price of the commodity, like say for example the soybean or rice or the wheat, etc., etc. And slowly the farmers started coming up to each opal, whatever were the prevailing prices of a particular commodity on that day. They were given, the farmers were given that price, the quantity, the farmers, there was the transparency in weighing the commodity of the farmers, transparency in making payment, etc., etc., was so beautiful, and it was so transparently done that farmers started winning, trusting this ITC chopals. And in return, what did ITC did? ITC constructed rural malls there, stocking almost all the categories of their products, even the agriculture inputs like the pesticides and fertilizers and weedicides and improvised seeds and some household items like groceries, etc., etc. So what was happening? ITC was giving the money to the farmers by procuring their outputs, agriculture outputs on one hand, and that same money which ITC gave it to the farmers, now the farmers are spending that money into the e-chopal or molds of ITC. So and this is a very, very profitable model. So it became a win-win situation. The farmers were assured of good price, lucrative and remunerative prices, transparency, etc., etc. So, you know, when we are talking about these rural markets, that's the reason I'm saying that the landscape of India, what India was 20 years back, and post 2015, phenomenal work, phenomenal development, phenomenal execution of social infrastructure projects into not only Gujarat or selected states of India, but in almost all the parts of the, once upon a time, for example, drinking water was a major constraint. And probably you would have heard that the people of the villages used to drink water from the same pond where the animals also were drinking, but that's not the scene. Say, for example, in Gujarat itself, few days back, our chief minister has already declared by in another year or two, every household in rural Gujarat will have a pipe, hygienic and safe, purified drinking water. What does this mean to the marketers? Now, say for example, we're all aware that to install a water purification system in our home, we need a running water. But what in case a household does not have a piped water? So that was one issue. The second, the demand of washing machines precisely would depend upon the availability of quality and quantity of water, right? So that's the reason I'm saying that a lot of and government of India and respective state governments today, for example, Bihar may be not fully electrified, although government claims that we have electrified 100% Indian villages are electrified. But as of today, when I'm delivering this talk, in Bihar, 100% of the villages are getting piped water. Right, every household has an access to clean and purified drinking water. Right. So further, when we are talking about, I've already mentioned that almost 100% electrification. Some years back, there were areas like in Bihar and Jharkhand, people did not have access to electricity. There was no power. Even there were stories which I came across wherein at some point of time, if a person had to recharge their batteries of the mobile phone, they used to go to the Kirana store. Who had this Kirana owner had a battery, and he used to charge say 5 to 7, 10 rupees to charge a mobile phone. But today that is no more an issue, because almost every village and almost every household in the village has an access to electricity. And particularly if you fly at night on the villages of these states, you will see that small villages are illuminated with the electricity bulbs, right? So again, that is how we get a feel that the rural landscape is going to change. Further, when we are talking about availability of power, we all know that majority of the consumer gadgets, whether it is water purification, or whether it's going to be your television, or whether it's going to be a refrigerator, or whether it's going to be your fans or LED bulbs or any damn thing, if there is no power, then these machines are not going to work. Simple. And therefore, people would not buy goods and services for which they do not have that kind of an infrastructure, right? However, now all the companies into this consumer durables, whether you talk about Samsung, whether you talk about LG, you talk about any XYZ brand, and they, to a certain extent, many of them have already entered various small towns and villages of this rural India. Many of them have already set up the strategic marketing and sales plans, and they're creating and investing some amount to create the requisite infrastructure so that they can do their sales and marketing, right? Teledensity, for example. Now, we all know, you would have come across the media articles time and again. Today almost every rural household has at least one mobile phone. I'm talking about mobile phone, right? And over a period of time, with this Reliance Jio and the kind of the price war that is prevailing between few of the mobile service and internet service provider companies, the access to internet is becoming more affordable. The access to smartphones are becoming more affordable. Now, what does this mean? How it is important for a marketer? If the rural population has smartphones, company can send customized marketing communication on these mobile phones, right? And company can share the strategic sales promotion schemes. Companies and brands can send product information, right? And therefore we know that one of the important activity of marketing is brand communication and trying to impart brand awareness, right? If the consumers get aware about the products or services or brands, at some point of time they will tend to buy it, right? And there, many of the professional advertising agencies used to say that rural India was media dark, because not many of them would have access to newspaper. I'm talking about few years back. Not many had television sets, and if there were television sets, there was no power. Even if there was power, there was no dish TV. There was no, the frequency, the quality of the frequency was so poor that the television sets would hardly operate, right? But today the scene is altogether different. Today, whether you're talking about advertising agencies, you're talking about of any brand, even for your, I don't know whether you're aware, but you would have been under an impression that only the urban population has access to Amazon and your Flipkart and your Snapdeal. That's not the reality, my dear friend. Amazon, looking to this market opportunity and potential into rural India, they have started assisted e-commerce in small towns and villages. Right. There is one more company, for example, into a startup that is purely into e-commerce. It's an e-commerce company. The name of the company is Boombox, right? And the major products of this company, Boombox, is consumer durables, and their major target or customers is the rural areas of Jharkhand, of Bihar, Odisha, West Bengal, etc., etc. And the company is growing year after year. That's the potential. That's the opportunity that this modern areas, particularly post 2015, right? So when I'm talking about this changing landscape, in fact, the rural areas of India have undergone a sea change. I feel that this rural population have got their true independence since our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi has taken over the affairs of the country, right? And we are very confident. He visualizes to double the income of the farmers. He has started creating asset base out of the social employment guarantee scheme. Now let me pause and tell you, see, this Narega, the minimum employment guarantee scheme, because it was somewhere to put the money into the hands of these rural people, so that they would get some kind of employment, and with the help of that they would be in a position to survive economically, right? Living below poverty in our country have reduced drastically, right? In Since last 4-5 years, right? Now, in earlier times, the rural people were given employment under this Narega, National Rojgar Guarantee Scheme, and people used to go there and simply dig pits, or the work was not that productive, and the labor that was invested into digging of pits and had hardly any value. Now this NDA government's policy on National Rojgar Guarantee is to create infrastructure and assets for rural areas. What do I mean to say? If particularly in a village, say for example, if that village does not have a water reservoir, let this labor working into this national under this Narega, they will construct or build a strong reservoir that can store water during the monsoon, so that the water tables gets recharged, or similar kind of assets are being created, which will be of use and help to these rural people living into different regions. For example, the entire entrepreneurship models of social entrepreneurship, let me tell you, may it be cooperatives, or may it be the producer societies, all these models, wherein the rural people can become social entrepreneurs, or entrepreneurs of any kind, and they can generate, they can be self-employed, they can give employment to some other people within the nearby surrounding, etc., etc. Another important insight that during my research of the various articles and literature, the dependency of villages on agriculture exclusively is slowly decreasing. Today, there are states wherein the rural people have access to more than one source of income. I'm not talking about Gujarat. Many of the companies do not consider the villages of Gujarat as rural areas, because majority villages of Gujarat are so nicely developed, right? For example, I'll give you an example. There is a village called Punsri near Gandhinagar. This is a model village in whole of the country, and this village has access to almost all the modern amenities. The village is economically well. Majority, there is a school, there are RCC roads, there is an internet connectivity across the village. Every village has an access to power, every village has an access to clean and purified water. Every village, every person, every household has sustainable income and livelihood, etc., etc. And therefore, when I'm talking about all this changing landscape, there is no exaggeration. Many of you may be definitely coming across the statistics and data that I'm talking about. And all this development is creating newer opportunities for marketers. Companies are now getting attracted because, as we all know, that this market, which was once upon a time believed to be non-productive, is now generating immense opportunity. It is not only because if companies are going to set up their distribution centers and their operations into the small towns and villages, chances of employment would also further increase. Furthermore, let me add you this microfinancing and consumer financing. Once upon a time, we had these facilities in our urban areas, for example. But the same facilities are now, there are several, the social banks, the Equitas Bank or several such kind of banks have now opened their branches into the taluka places or some village clusters or some larger villages, right? And all this, what do you call, the access to consumer finance and the access to affordable finance. Let me use the word affordable because that's very important. So all these indicators of rural area definitely would attract many more multinational companies, many more Indian companies. Say, for example, Nestle. Now, this Nestle, which is, we know that it's an MNC. The Nestle had its presence only into urban area, but it could not resist the temptation of entering into rural areas. And the company has set up all the strategic plans and processes and is setting up the infrastructure, and probably in another few weeks or months, company would be fully operational, and all the majority of the products that Nestle sells, the brands of Nestle, would be available into a small town or a village, and that's how the things are improving. Just let me give you, as I was to, although I teach this course into various places in various B schools, but when I was researching, I had some AC Nielsen reports and McKinsey reports and Accenture reports, etc. Now, just to say all in nutshell, one of the reports said that between 2009 and 2012, spending in rural India reached almost US 69 billion, significantly higher than 55 billion spent by urban population. Just imagine today, if immediately after COVID, when the economy was being unlocked, and Economic Times and Business Standard, they were coming out with a lot of exciting figures from the rural area. In spite of the slowdown in urban markets post-lockdown and unlocking of the economy, and yet we witness the slowdown of the trade and industry into urban area. But your rural areas had never slowed down. In fact, it is being forecasted because during post-lockdown, we were talking about various recovery shapes of the economy, Indian economy. We were talking about Z shapes and U shapes and I shapes and V shapes. But the global economists are of a view that India would be one of the first country to come out of the slowdown because of the huge consumption base into rural areas, right? And as you know, the International Monetary Fund has already forecasted that probably 2021-22, India would grow with a double digit, exceeding the previous records of GDP growth. So just see, this is all very inspiring and very, this kind of facts and figures of international agencies creates a lot of optimism into fueling new enthusiasm into trade and industry. Similarly, the value of rural India's consumer good market is expected to rise to US 100 billion by 2025. There is one report of McKinsey titled Bird of Gold expects income to triple by 2025, and this 2025 is not very far, right? hoping that we have good 2 to 3 good monsoons in a sequence, and probably our economy would be on a roller skater, right? Furthermore, if you see, I'll just give you a glimpse of the market size. When we were talking about opportunity, I wanted to share this opportunity with facts and figures and statistical data. Now, the data could be a little older because getting precise data is always a challenge for any academician. So, if you see this FMCG segment itself is more than 65,000 crore rupees. Just imagine. It's so huge. And this FMCG would include your detergents and your bathing soaps and your shampoos and your hair oils and your cosmetics and your chocolates and confectionaries and biscuits and everything. And all, you talk about Parle-G, majority of the biscuits of the company, and particularly this 2-3 brands which are well known, Parle-G or Crack Jack or Monaco, the kind of the quantity that is being sold into rural areas is just a single example I'm trying to talk about, right? The sale of Lifebuoy, for example, or sale of Wheel. In fact, if you talk about the major market for Nirma soaps and detergent, they are the rural markets, and these rural markets have created a huge fortune for its founding chairman, Shri Dr. Kasanbhai Patel. Similarly, you talk about durables. And durables will include your fans and your guest stoves and your televisions and your washing machines and your ROs and so many things, right? Similarly, clothing and footwear. It is going to be more than 35,000 crore, and just imagine, it's so huge. And when we're talking about these facts and figures, just imagine the kind of the employment that is going to be there. And who would be the students that you may be, the students from your university that may be graduating, or the students from my institute that may be graduating? Probably they would be the managers, future managers in this kind of companies, and the newer opportunities that are being thrown by the Bharat. Let us call it the new Bharat. Right. For example, I have already said Maruti Suzuki, for example, out of the total sales of the company, 39% this year also. Post-COVID news reports were saying that there was increase in number of tractor sales. There was increase in number of motorcycles. The demand for motorcycles was high from the rural areas, although the urban cities were somewhere low in sales. Similarly, four-wheelers, etc., etc. So we have seen about this opportunity, but what are the challenges? Let me tell you, even as of today, 25% of the people living below poverty line in India are living in rural areas of the country. Many people post-COVID, we have seen the migrant labor that was moving in different regions of India and from their hometowns. Many of these migrant workers are yet not able to rejoin their previous jobs. And as the report says that the many more million people would get into poverty, below poverty line this year because of the COVID impact. However, there would be very fast recovery of, as Indian economy is picking up quite fast as compared to the other global economies. Another important thing is, another challenge is the affordability. Now, companies who are planning to enter these rural markets, because their products are no more selling into urban areas, and the products that had been designed for urban areas are being, if the company thinks that we'll dump it into rural market, this is not going to work. The companies will have to customize the product, the designs, the packaging, the features, etc., etc., that suits the rural people, that suits their mind, that suits their climatic and geographical conditions. So customization. Many of the companies will have to work like a social working company, because I mean the market is not ready. The company will have to develop, the company will have to create, the company if required will have to invest a little more, so that their brands, their product, their distribution centers, their service stations, etc., that infrastructure will have to be created. Then and then only, because rural consumers are a little conservative in nature. They don't believe in luxury spend. But yes, they would definitely like to spend in those products and services and categories wherein they feel that it will make their life easy, or it will add some value to their agriculture or their living standard. Right. So there are ample of opportunities, few of the challenges which this rural India has, and we can keep on speaking and speaking about this segment, basically rural segment. I think I was to speak for 45 minutes, and I don't think so. I should continue because it's almost about to be 5. So with this, I would like to conclude that if the students who are connected, my dear friends, the quality of life that your small towns and villages would provide, and the quality of life that your large cities have now become almost concrete jungles. The kind of the food that you eat, the kind of the air that you inhale, and the kind of the water that you drink in your big cities, and the quality of life and the quality of the standard of living that you have in small towns and villages is far better. So instead of trying to make a rush towards metropolitan cities and large cities, I think there are going to be ample of opportunities that new Bharat is going to come up with. And therefore, I hope this talk would inspire you to take up some entrepreneurship projects in your small towns and villages. We have already 24/7 power supply, at least in Gujarat, right? And this was already done when our Prime Minister was the Chief Minister of the state, right? Jyotigram Yojana, probably, that is if I'm not wrong, wherein there is an access to household 24/7. There is an access to power for the household and small and cottage industry people. Well, the agriculture may have access to 8 hours, but Jyotigram has already created ample of opportunities to set up your own enterprises. Furthermore, there are going to be a lot of jobs that are going to be coming up into coming days or weeks or months. So with this note, I would end my talk, and thank you all the audience, thank you all the stakeholders of the university for inviting me to deliver this talk. Thank you all. I would welcome questions if any. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Thank you, sir. I hope the talk was very informative and very helpful to all the viewers and stakeholders.
Dinesh bhai, please. Dinesh bhai.
Hello.
Yes, you are audible. Please go ahead. Yes.
Okay, sir. I am Dr. Dinesh Chavda, Department of Management of the University. On behalf of my Department of Commerce and Management, Bhakta Kavi Narsinh Mehta University, I extend a really hearty vote of thanks to our expert speaker, Professor Dr. Kishor Barad sir, who spread his valuable time from his packed schedule to guest the occasion today. We had one opportunity to hear our thought, and this will surely increase us and our future program and endeavor. Dr. Barad had expressed his view on opportunity and challenges rural market of India in the 21st century, such as liberalizations, FDI, India demographic pyramid, e-commerce, India income pyramid, per capita incomes, misconception about rural market, GDP, changing and landscapes of rural India, rural consumer.
Dodia Sahib, you completed, no issues. You can complete and
Okay, okay.
conclude the talk.
Sir, yeah, network issue is there.
Yes, yes, yes.
So,
This is again a
so
challenge.
sir,
See, this,
so, sir,
this net, yes.
yeah, yeah, sir. He is traveling to observe as an observer in other institute.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
he is coming now in university, but so many issues for the networking. So
Yeah.
it is a your wonderful talk and very informative knowledge opportunity for challenges in the research rural marketing. Okay, so it is very important topic to the creating new opportunity and strategy in the rural area and grow more and more this area with the help of all the peoples and our students and our research scholars. So very again I thank you very much, sir, Dr. Barad Saib. Really
Yes.
thank you, sir.
Okay,
Thank you
it's
very
my
much, sir.
honor.
Thank you,
Okay, my honor, more my honor. Thank you.
thank you, sir.
Okay.